and visual podcast, a weekly discussion about all things guitar building and some random tangents as well, featuring members of the Guitar Builders Collective from all around the world. The Guitar Builders Collective is a like-minded group of individuals that have come together to share their experiences, knowledge and inspiration for guitar building. Each week you can join us in the live YouTube chat or catch up at a later point. It's also available as audio where you'll miss out on seeing our lovely faces and some of the visuals we share along the way. You can also find the Guitar Builders Collective via our forum, over on Instagram where we share images of members' builds. We've got a thriving Facebook group, and we do hope that no matter what your experience and knowledge is, you'll become a welcome member of this community too. Great. Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hello.
Just before we kick off, I want to have a quick apology. Last week, as some of you know, I was really busy prepping this Kickstarter that I'm doing. I was working really long hours and I got very confused, and I accidentally programmed 2 streams for today. So some people have already been online this morning to join us live in the YouTube chat for a stream that didn't happen. So apologies. That's happening next week. That'll be next Thursday at our earlier time, which is 9 a.m. for people in the UK, and it's 8 p.m. for Arran's time in Melbourne, Australia, or around Melbourne, Australia, and middle of the night for all you guys in the US. So apologies for that, but luckily you can catch up and you can find us on YouTube, but also on wherever you get your podcasts. So this week we've got a guest who some of you may recognise from some of the videos from my own channel. But before I introduce him, I'll just let you know we've got Mark Gutierrez here from America. We've got Scott also joining us over from America, Scott from Bonehead Guitars. We've got Dave.
Hi there.
Guitars. I've just noticed in the chat, Simon Chapman, a former guest, is in the chat as well. Hi Simon. And our guest for today is Ben Marshall from Mars-Tronic.
Oh.
Hey, Ben. I'm just trying to remember before we started when I met Ben. So I think it might have been 2 or 3 years ago. I bought one of his products, which we can talk about in a moment, and then started emailing him about them because I really liked them. And it was about the time we had Mark from Therotone Studios on this show, and Mark's a massive fan of Ben's work. So then me and Ben started talking because I wanted to buy more to put in my guitars, and then we met at a guitar show. And since then, you've been doing loads of stuff. So, Ben, before we dive into the history of Mars-Tronic, can you just sum up what are the products that Mars-Tronic are currently selling or making?
So, I'm doing 2 treble bleed circuits. One with terminals on, so you can change the capacitors on it quite easily without having to solder and desolder. I'm doing another version of that, which is just solder only. I'm doing a multi-capacitor, which has got surface mount capacitors on to try out different tone capacitor values, and then 2 new products, which are it's the Perfecto clean switch, which is a volume drop switch, again with the treble bleed circuit built in. So they're the main things at the minute.
That's cool. And I remember you were not that long ago you experimented with other things, which we talk about as well, like the Humblebee.
Oh yeah, that failed venture. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Well, it's not really failed. Yeah, the Humblebee was like a bass cut. It was similar to the dry switch that Yamaha do, but I weren't happy with the sound they were getting from it. So I've got a few of them prototypes there, but I've never really sold them very often, just simply because I'm not happy with them as a circuit. The other thing I did as well was a clean boost circuit, 9-volt clean boost circuit, which was for PJD Guitars, because they were doing a custom guitar for Guitarist magazine. So that's how that came about.
Oh, nice. Right. So just before we carry on, someone's mentioned in the chat, Owen's mentioned in the chat, that there is still a bit of an echo on your mic, Ben. I think if you can't fix it, it's not the end of the world, but it might be good to...
I might be able to fix it. I'll give it a try.
Sorry.
That's all right. I'll 2 seconds.
So just while Ben's doing that, I was telling everyone just off air a story, so I'll fill the void with this story. As you know, I've got a membership for this channel, and someone just became a member. There's another YouTube channel called Every Guitar Has a Story. And they messaged me after doing that to say they were glad they found my channel because they'd just seen one of my guitars at a show and they'd made a video about it. So I went and watched the video, and it wasn't actually one of my guitars. It was something that looked like one of my guitars, my Shattercaster designs, the ones that look like really relict and broken guitars. And basically, Every Guitar Has a Story interviewed the owner of it, who's in a band and plays with it a lot. And it was made for him by somebody else who had seen my guitars and had made a copy of it for this guy, which I thought was a bit odd because when you look at the guitar, you can see it's based on my model, but it's definitely not quite up to the sort of standard that I do. There's a lot of details I put into those relic ones to make them look ridiculous because they're over relict, and it was I was just a bit shocked by it. But then as he told the story, I remember who it was. So there was someone that when they first saw them on Facebook was in contact with me because they wanted one but couldn't afford one. So we've been talking for a long time, and this guy makes guitars, and he'd asked me if he would I mind if he made a copy of one. And I thought he was just doing it for himself. And I said, of course not. We've been talking for ages. Hopefully one day he'll have the money to buy one of mine. But yeah, it's fine. But anyway, he made it and sold it, which was a bit of a cheat. So I'm going to have to dig up my old Facebook messages, see if I can find out who that was and have a chat about that. Because I've got no problem when people, I don't know how the rest of you feel, when people make something that's inspired by you or influenced by you or talk to you about what you've done and say, I liked your YouTube video, it's given me an idea of how to make this jig or how to do that. But when they just sort of do it and sell it on, or they do it without telling you and it's not as good as what you think it could be, it's always a bit of a disappointment. I've had a few people message me saying, I've just bought one of your guitars someone had bought one at a pawn shop and it wasn't one of my guitars. It was clearly a rip-off and it was really badly made. But never mind. Have any of you had anyone that's been in contact with you and said, I really like what you're doing, I'm going to try and do it as well?
No, I haven't actually. No, everybody's asked how it all works, but I'm not one to gatekeep my circuits either. I don't mind sharing with everybody how it's done, really. So the treble bleed circuit itself is a very, very simple circuit, and all I've done is added on some trim pots, variable trim pots, and a terminal block. So it's super duper simple, and I don't really mind sharing with people how I've done that, really.
I think, Ben, one of the things I would definitely want to talk about is obviously you're selling products. We've had people on that sell pickups or sell guitars, and you're selling things that are super affordable. So the way you run a business is very different to, say, some of us that may be making bespoke guitars. Mark, for example, sells files for 3D printing and CAD files. That's one way of selling something maybe more affordable that you can mass produce. And I wonder why anyone would want to take your circuit, Ben, and make their own version when it's so affordable just to buy what you've got. I'm going to share on the screen your website so we can talk about the products as we go along. And anyone that's like listening on the podcast, there's links in the description to Ben's sites.
I think as well, just to interrupt here, I think it's the attention to detail, Ben, that you do. I mean, Mark from Proton Studios was demonstrating it and showing what came in the pack. I mean, you even include a little screwdriver to allow him to adjust it, as well as all of the fittings and crocodile clips for you to test it. I mean, that's really it's those touches, I think, that really add value.
Thanks. I mean, the whole point behind it was that I was trying to experiment with treble bleeds. I'd never ever used a treble bleed before in my life. So I thought, well, what is the best circuit? And then I found out there were about 20 different treble bleed circuits. And I did not want to solder and desolder and solder and desolder all these parts. So I originally came up with a prototype. I've got it here, actually. So the first prototype, well, if you can see it, it's a big blue chunky thing.
Just make you large so we can see it better.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
The big blue chunky thing, and the circuit board itself. There's a website you can design these circuit boards called Easy EDA, and it's just a web-based bit of software. And then you can take your design that you've done, and they're linked to another website. that let you then order the circuit boards and the parts as well if you like. So that's what I did, and it was cheap to buy. 5 of the minimum. I bought 10, so I made 10 of these prototypes. I just thought I'll see if anybody wants to buy them, and people did. So that's how it came about, really. But then I shrunk it down when I ran out to where it is now.
You wanted to try out treble bleeds. Can you just, in case someone doesn't know, because we've talked about them before, but in case someone doesn't know, what is a treble bleed and why did you want to try one out?
So a treble bleed keeps the high end there as you roll back the volume on the guitar. When you roll back your volume pot, you've got an interaction between that and the capacitance of your cable, which acts like a minimal, it's like a tone control basically. It lowers, it takes out some of the high end. So a treble bleed bypasses what the cable's doing or acts against it and balances out your sound. But there's a problem where, depending on the length of your cable and the rest of your gear you've got in there, you might end up with a circuit that's too brash sounding or not effective enough. So there's a few variable treble bleeds out there, but I thought I don't even know what those circuits are, so I decided to make one that you could just replicate all of them with, really. So I just took all the values for all the different circuits and sort of realised, well, I could do a series and a parallel resistance, and as long as it can be varied all the way from 0 to 500 kiloohms, then I can cover every single circuit. And then it were a case of sticking on the terminals so I could change out the capacitors and get away from. That's what I went with. But I've got it here actually. So I've got a guitar that I made in school, and I were wanting to refinish it all, and it's still not finished. So basically, I decided to call the treble make it procrastination. So I'm still procrastinating. I'm not finished this guitar off yet. So eventually, one day, I'll put the treble maker in that guitar and finish it off.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, to trail ahead, I'm sure we're going to talk about why you're so busy with being at so many shows and doing loads of stuff on Instagram, etc. But just with the treble bleeds, from what I remember, there's different ways of having a treble bleed. So with your circuit, you can have the different resistor values that you change, but also in different positions. So they might be in parallel or series with the capacitor.
That's right, yeah. So I'll show you the instructions briefly, actually. On the instructions manual, I put a table. So that lets you replicate all the different circuits. So there's Mojo Tone, which is just a parallel circuit. The Damasio one, the Suo one, which is just parallel. The Fender Tone Saver, that's got a parallel and a series in there. So you can replicate that quite easily. And then the Kinman one, that's the only one that's quite common that has just a series resistance with the capacitor. So the first treble bleed, it was just a capacitor, and that were very brash sounding. So then people put in the parallel resistance, and that changes the taper of your volume pot as well a little bit. But some people don't like that. So the Kinman one, how can I describe? So when we're in series, the resistor in series, it actually lowers the amount of treble going through. So the parallel resistance changes what frequency is being allowed back through into your signal, and the series one changes the amount. So you've got like one for the body of the sound and one for the amount. So like I always need a little bit of something there in the series path so that it's not too brash sounding, but everybody's different. So yeah.
Well, I mean, so I've used them, and what I like about it is I don't know what I want from each guitar when I'm building it, and it gives you that option to change it and fiddle around with it. Maybe it makes sense if I try to share a quick clip of you playing one, if you don't mind me doing that.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then someone can, because when you're describing what it sounds like, it's easier maybe to show it. Although, as we know, when you're sharing on YouTube, etc., things get compressed and things sound different, but you should be able to hear a bit of the difference. So hopefully you can hear this. Oh, it's very quiet.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can actually hear that well enough on the stream. I don't know how to turn the sound up on this. Anyway, maybe I'll stop that. That didn't work so well. But yeah, it is a personal taste. But I think it's a great thing to have, because I've had clients that say, I want, like, as we've talked about before, some people just want everything they can possibly have in it to change as many sounds as they want. But this is a way of doing it all in something that's quite concealed and quite small, that for me is quite easy to wire in. So I feel like it gives clients that option without them having to have all these complicated things and extra buttons and knobs to turn.
Yeah, it's like a set it and forget it sort of thing, really. So, I think that's important, because everybody's got their own preference. Some people really like treble bleeds. Some builders really like treble bleeds. Some guitar techs, and they'll have their own preference of treble bleed, but it might not be yours. So you get to do treble bleed in your guitar, and you've never tried one out before. You try it and you don't really like it, and then that guitar, then you don't play it as often until you have it changed again, because a lot of people don't want to solder the guitar, do anything like that. So just putting the control at the fingertips, it means that some people who didn't like treble bleeds before are actually going to like them now, because they can find what they like instead of what somebody else has picked for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. But like as we said before, not everyone likes treble bleed, but I like your idea that you can try it out. I know, Mark, we've talked before that you're not a big fan of them. But then I guess it depends on how the things are set up, maybe. Dave, have you used them yet?
I've never used treble bleed, and I'm a bit like Ben was when he started out. I'm thinking, what on earth is it? But having seen Ben's stuff and watched it, I can see why it works. I mean, as say Mark at Ferrotone Studios was demoing it, and he was saying, he wanted something that he can lower the volume but still cut through the mix, especially when he's rehearsing and that. It does. I can see how that works. So yeah, I'm very tempted. I'll be honest with you. I also like your tone control. Perhaps we'll talk about that in a bit, where you can change the capacitors for that, because tone controls for me are a blunt instrument. I just don't think they just. I don't put one in basically, and I know Ray was saying this last week, because I just think, it's like to me it reminds me of the old tone control you used to get on old radios and stuff, and it just muffles the sound. But if you've got the option to change the capacitors in there and get sort of different tones and pick the one you want, and I think that might be really good.
Yeah, it's just having that experimentation there, isn't it? You can try out the different values. I think, again, it's something that it's nice to offer people that to try. I think the Versatone especially, I was thinking when I made that, I wanted to aim it more at builders, so a customer will come and say, I want a tone control on, but then you've got the option to just show them the different settings. And even though they're just surface mount capacitors, I know some people really like the high-end capacitors. I'm still undecided as to whether an oil fill capacitor really makes a difference or not. I'm still undecided, but some people really believe that. So giving them the steps through the different values as to what is roundabout where they want, and then you've got the option to go for a higher end capacitor, then it's a good way to go, really, I think.
Yeah, I'll just share that on the screen. I've got to say, like, the reason I bought your treble bleed, the treble maker, in the first place was I'd never tried one and I wanted to try one out. And when you see them for sale, it's just a capacitor and a resistor twiddled together. and I feel like, why am I paying for that? I'll just do it myself, and then I never really bother doing it because I wasn't sure it'd make that much difference. But having something that was quite an easy way to try out all those things was quite useful, which I guess is what this Versatone's like. Arran from Adair Guitars isn't with us this week. He's normally, because of the time zone changes, he's only with us once a month at the moment. But he's building a guitar, just like a mock-up guitar for him to test things out, to test pick-up combinations with different tone and volume controls. And he's built in a multi-capacitor like this just to try things out on. Again, I've not really used one yet, so I don't know what difference it's going to make. But I'm hoping I'll be as surprised as I am with the sort of treble bleed. Is it really noticeable with the tone on the capacitor?
It is, yeah.
Difference it makes.
The different values I've got on there, it goes all the way from super, super dark sounding all the way up to, well, you can hear the difference, but it's nowhere near as dark. It's quite light. I forgot what values I've gone for, actually, off the top of my head. Can you see it on the website, Daniel? If you scroll down. There we go. Yeah, so the most common is the 47. That's in a lot of guitars, a lot of production guitars. I really like the 22. I think it's a nice balance, and you seem to have a usable tone control all the way along.
Yeah, I'll say as well. So this is something I've mentioned recently. I am trying my best to improve the wiring within my guitar and make better decisions about how I'm building. One of the things that I've always done when I've built is I just bought a load of 47 and 22 nanofarad capacitors, and I just swap them around to like see which one sounds better. But that's always a bit of a faff, and I never really try other capacitors because it's just that effort of soldering and unsoldering, and I'm playing it until recently when I've just bought a nicer amp for my workshop. I test everything through a monitor, so it's crystal clear, but it's got no sort of big EQ or processing on it. And like even making those changes there, it makes me wonder what's it actually going to be like when someone's playing it on their setup with their real amps or through all their pedals and stuff. Maybe what I'm choosing is right for me now, but what will my client want? So I do like the idea of having something they could potentially adjust as well. But then am I giving them too much? Some clients, that's too much, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I know when I first put it up for sale, somebody bought 3 and they've actually put them in the guitars to be able to adjust any time they like. But that it's an option there for people. But personally, it was just a way to experiment, really. The same as a troublemaker. It's a way to experiment, but we are having to solder and desolder, and it gives it that ability to everybody, really. That's the whole idea.
Do any of you know about the thing that Gibson have in some of their models, which like the Lucille one that BB King has? It's got the 5-way switch.
Oh, yeah. It's very tone, isn't it? I think it's called.
Yeah, it's very tone, of course. Yeah. Have any of you used those before?
No. Is that the same sort of thing, changing capacitors, is it? You think?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. When you have a look at it, you'll get a much bigger switch than the one I've got, and there'll be lots and lots of capacitors attached. I've never used one either.
Right.
So I've got one ready to set up on a pair I'm doing at the moment, and the thing about that is it has that instead of the tone control. So whereas with a tone control you might have your set capacitor, and then with a potentiometer you can change it in and out at different levels, this one has just I think 5 set capacitor values that change the tone. So you don't have a tone control, you just have that, and you flip between the 5 settings. So until I've set it all up, I don't know what it's going to sound like.
I mean, I personally don't know what value capacitors you'd have on a Veritone, to be honest. I should reel it up, I suppose, and I can tell people, yeah, you can use this as a veritone or not.
Yeah, I mean, this one is actually it's not a veritone because it's not Gibson. It's an Aria Pro bass.
Yeah.
So presumably Aria have made a decision of these are the 5 settings we're going to have for the bass settings.
Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? I think Aria are quite a good company actually for being outside the box a little bit. Actually, I think I've got one of the guitars that somebody gave to me, and I've always really liked it. To be honest, it's a nice guitar. Yeah.
So do you manufacture all these yourself then, Ben?
Right. So what I do is, in fact, Daniel, could you show the website? Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll show it again.
It's could you go to easyeda.com?
Oh, another site. Okay.
Another site. Yeah, is that all right?
Yeah, I'll look that up. easyeda.com.
I must say I've got a bit of experience of this because I've just been working with a guy who's helped me redesign my little preamp that I use in.
Oh yeah.
And I was really shocked that I could get 5 printed circuit boards printed for $2.
I know. So on here you can design the circuit board. They do flexible circuit boards, a whole lot, and then it's linked through to their sister company, which then produce the circuits. So my original one, it just arrived as a circuit boards, and I had to solder it all up. But then the newer, the smaller ones, they're all surface mount components, so they do it, and I get them all on one piece of tape. It doesn't really cost that much money to have them produced, and then I package everything up with the capacitors. I take the tape off and make sure everything looks okay. I put in the little tools as well. I've got I've got them here somewhere. There we go. These little tools as well, which Wago, they produce the terminals that are on the Troublemaker. So they do a little tool, and that allows you to put in and out the capacitors quite easily. So I get them. I get everything separately, and then I assemble everything all together, and it takes me a couple hours, and I package up about 50 of them at a time, just in small batches, and then they're ready to go. And the way I see it is, I'm not too bothered about having a massive profit from these circuits. I do get a profit from them, but the main thing is getting it out to people, and yeah, that's it really. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if I said this before, but I think your treble maker, anyway, if you compare it to some other brands, is still quite cheap. I'm sure you can sell it for.
Yeah. I mean, the Tone Saver by Fender. That's quite pricey. It's about £50, and all it is the capacitor and the resistor, fixed values inside a little bit of packaging. To me, that's them components probably cost them about 30p.
Yeah.
We talk about this a lot, but people are paying for a name there.
Yeah, they are.
The things that's come up a number of times recently with Menno, who was on a while ago, with Les from Godfrey Guitars, and a few others, is the relationship you have with your customer as a small builder, and how, at least with the guitar, Menno described it as your baby you're passing on. So it's now their guitar, but it's still always going to be his guitar as well, because he made it. Now, I know it's not quite the same maybe with smaller components like yours, but one thing I like about the way you run your business is, I don't know if you're still doing this, but to start with, at one point when you were selling them, if someone put an order in, they always got a video from you thanking them for their order.
Yeah, I still do that now. Yeah.
I just think that's such a cool little thing to do. It makes it like a real connection between knowing you're buying from a small maker, as opposed to if you buy a Fender, you're not going to have that connection at all.
That's it, isn't it? I think I've got the advantage of being a really small business. I'm doing things in small batches of 50. It means I can make changes and change direction quite easily, and I can keep it really personal for people. So and I like doing that. The amount of times I'll send a message to somebody and then I'll get a message back saying, "Wow, nobody's ever done that before." In fact, I got that idea from there's a small marketing podcast in Australia, and it's really, really brilliant. And when I signed up to his Patreon, and he sends a personal message, and I thought, you know what, that's like a brilliant idea. Using that person's name, you know what I mean? You're talking to them saying, "Thank you very much for the order. If you've got any problems at all, send me a message." And you know, I think it's just nice to get that sort of message too. So now I do it just as a YouTube short. I just do a YouTube short, put it on private, and send them the link and say, "I've done you a little video." So
Excellent.
A great thing. I mean, I'm picking up from all our different guests ideas of how to interact with my clients and the people I'm building for, and like I'm definitely now going to build into any sale of a guitar a follow-up video call, so that I can make sure that someone's got it in their hands, they're happy with how it's set up, and I can advise them how to do it, because not a lot of people know how to set up a guitar. And sometimes a guitar arrives, or you've got a guitar, it doesn't have to arrive, you've got your guitar, you're playing it, and it's okay, but just needs a very slight tweak and it'll be brilliant. But people either don't know or aren't confident to do that. But with someone walking them through it, they will be. And it's so easy to do that. And I think it was partly your video follow-ups that made me think there's no reason not to have these follow-ups, because for me, whereas you might be selling loads of products, I'm selling one every few months or whatever it is. It's no skin off my back to make a call and have a connection. And it has that connection that you want with your clients. You want that connection with them, really.
That's it. And I think because I think the exact same thing. I think you've got to have that personal connection. And when people got problems, they can come to you, and they know they're talking to. It gives them a face on the other end. And the way I've set everything up, the website, everything, I've got orders just come to my printer, print off. I've got a label printer for the postage. I've packaged everything up, ready to go in these little packages like this. So they're all ready to go. I've packaged them. I know what's inside them. They're all good. So I'll get an order through. I think in about 4 minutes I can have it packaged up, labels on, and the video recorded and sent over to them. And I'm not getting a vast amount of orders still, so it's very easy to do, really.
I was going to ask, where do you get most of your sales from? Is it from exhibitions, or is it just from the web?
Both, really. When I do an exhibition, I normally do okay. So I'll cover the cost of the table. My wife comes with me as well, and she does these little crocheted animals with guitars on them and things. So we normally have a competition to see who can sell the most. She always wins, to be fair. In fact, actually, I did the London show. This is really annoying. I did the London show, and my wife was with me, and she sold more than me. And then 2 days after, somebody messaged and said, "Were you the guy whose wife was selling the crochet stuff? Because I need to buy another one." So it came through me to buy another crocheted little. She does these little chicks in these little suits, and yeah.
So Ben, why aren't they on the website then?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know. I should really. Maybe I should pivot a little bit.
Colours.
I should maybe I should rename it. It can be like, I don't know, Mars-Tronic and like art couture crocheted. I don't know. Yeah.
It should at least be an add-on from your site to add on. So.
Yeah, I know. I should do that. In fact, actually, I don't know if he'll watch this. Perfecto de Castro, I've done the circuits for. There's a little crocheted octopus inside the package I've just sent over to him with a bunch of the circuits in for him. It's not one.
We're definitely going to talk about that in a minute. But that's exciting. I'm in a WhatsApp group with a lot of British builders that go to the shows that you've been going to. Because I feel like, Ben, you go to every show you possibly can in the UK.
I do now. I went to all of them. You know, Peter and Gail, who do the Northern Guitar shows. I've done every single one of theirs over the past year. I'm not doing the one next month in December. we're having a bit of a break, but then after that, I think we'll be back to them all. The London show's been really, really good. That was the first one I did. I shared the table with you, Daniel, and me.
Yeah.
That was the very first one, and that were really good.
So how many shows? Just so people know, how many shows a year is that you're talking about?
I think it's about 5. It's about 5. But I think I'm going to look at actually attending as an attendee and sort of taking my circuits around to builders. Just because I don't think I managed to get out to the people who would use the products more than the general public, really.
Well, maybe your wife needs a stand selling the crocheted things, and she can have some of the bits as well. That's one of the things that this WhatsApp group of builders has been discussing, is whether it's worth, as a boutique builder, going to these shows, because most people go there just to browse, or they know they want to buy from a shop. Like lots of the main retail shops are going to be there. I can go and buy this Fender a bit cheaper at the show. But there's something about having products like yours that I think there's a lot of people that go to the show and they maybe want to spend a little bit of money, buy a cable, buy a lead, buy something you can put in yourself. So there are benefits there.
There is, because it's a low value product. People do, especially when they've got to try it out. They're like, oh, I'll get that. I'll throw it in the bag. There's a few people. There's one guy. Every single show. Is at every single show. He went to the London show this time, but every other one, and every single show is like coming is like, I'll buy a Troublemaker, and then he'll come back later in the show and he'll buy another 2, and then the next time he'll be like, I need I best buy another one, because he's a vintage guitar super fan, and he's got like 40 of these guitars, and he's putting them in all the guitars, I think. But it's always nice to see him. Just to have a chat.
I mean, that's one of the things about the shows. You get to meet people, but like the people I've met, I've only been to a few shows, but the people you meet that come back each time you talk to, that's brilliant. But for someone that's building guitars, it's not worth it. You need to meet the person that's going to be buying your guitar. And the amount of time it takes to get to a show. Some shows, you've got to go the night before. I think there's better ways to spend money than being at a show. But I like what you said about going to meet the builders. So do you mind telling us a bit about your connection with is it PJD Guitars?
So originally, I'd made the blue circuit, and there was a guitar builder called Martin Harmer in Barnsley. And I showed him the circuit, and then he said, that was really, really good. I'll get back to you about it. And I didn't really hear anything. Eventually I sold them, and they made the smaller ones. I sent him a picture of the smaller ones, and he gave me a call back, and he said, Ben, I'm not building guitars in Barnsley anymore. I'm working for PJD Guitars in York. So I'll take it and show them. So they took it, I'd looked at it, really liked it, and then they put it into these guitars, the Carry Apprentice, which they're absolutely lovely guitars. And then it had a reviewing guitarist magazine. So that were within a few months of me releasing the smaller version. I've got, a nice mention in Guitarist magazine, which were really nice. And then carrying on from that, I've done other little things, some like the boost circuit I've worked on for them and things. So that, I think working with PJD were one of the biggest things to like boost my business and get it going somewhere.
So they're putting the treble maker into all of their particular one model of builds, or are they putting it in all the builds?
So they were putting it in these Kerry Apprentice guitars. They're not the latest ones. I don't think they're putting it in, but these ones they were putting it in. So I think they had maybe about 110 treble makers off me altogether. So there's about 100 of them guitars knocking about, and there's one more model as well. What's his name? Graham Coxon from Blur. He's got one of those guitars as well. So that's
I remember you saying, or you putting a post up saying, I wonder if Graham Coxon even knows it's in there.
Yeah, he probably don't even know, does he?
No, I saw him interviewed on that pedal show, and he does know his stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's pulled it apart and looked inside the guitar.
Yeah, probably. Maybe he's took it out because he hates it, though. That's always a possibility.
I like the idea of having it there available, but also having an on-off switch.
Yeah.
Because there's always those times when if you want a variety of tone and a variety of options, then having it on and off is an additional option, which is
absolutely.
Because you put some, haven't you, on a push-pull pots? Is that right?
I have, actually. I took this one to the last shows with me, and I put this one on a push-pull. It's literally just so people at the show can try it out. And you can show them without. They can hear it, and then as soon as they try it out, then they sort of get it out. From doing the first shows to now, I've changed how I'm sort of approaching it with people, because there's a lot of people just have never even heard of a treble bleed. So a big part of it is actually showing people this possibility, really.
I know on your website you've got a couple of artists, and one of them is Neil Jones.
Yes, Neil Jones.
And I mean, he's got on his Instagram page, he's got a really good. He's playing a little jazzy tune, and he's turning the volume down, turning it up, and it really does demonstrate the value of it. It's subtle, but it does demonstrate it. It's really good.
When I was trying to push it out there a little bit, I approached different session guitarists, and Neil Jones was one of them. In fact, he really, really helped me in terms of developing the instructions. There were a lot of bounce backs. He did some work writing manuals for some, I think it was for some in-ear monitors and things. But then, you know, I mean, he'd never used a treble bleed before, and then he's tried it and really liked it. But it's nice actually to get in there before people have tried another treble bleed and give them the troublemaker.
Yeah. Well, but it is interesting because I now notice other companies selling them, which may or may not have been there before. I think I just only noticed them because I've started using your ones. And it is noticeable that some, like that Fender one, things are set, or if something's variable, it's only one element that's variable. Yeah. And I find it interesting you've come at it from the point of view of wanting to know what the treble bleed is and made everything possible variable.
Yeah, I think if you look at all the different variable ones, there's different approaches to it, and there's no, I would say that some are better than others. It depends on how you want to look at it. I'm not going to say mine's better than somebody else's. It's a different approach. So Mythos pedals, he's got a variable treble bleed. What that is just a few different switches that gives you some presets. So there's no real variance on there. But some people really like just to have something they can switch. They haven't got to mess around with too much. So that's understandable. And then there's one called the V-Treb, and I think that's just a parallel circuit, a parallel adjustment. But unless you know what you're looking at, there's nothing there to tell you what the circuit actually is. I like to know what circuit I'm putting in the guitar. But, you know, if somebody asked me, I want to know exactly how the treble makers, what circuit is, I would show them, because I just think there's no point keeping that to myself, because it's so simple, really.
So if it's all right, I just want to share a clip that went up the other day of Perfecto with his new thing that you've made for him. So I play the clip. Hopefully the sound won't be as quiet as before, but I'm not sure I can do anything about that. And then we can talk about what it actually is. Let's see if it works. Hold on.
Here's a clip of me playing the Perfecto clean switch for the very first time.
And it works!
Even passes the Van Halen test.
For details and a full demo video, click on the link below or just search for Perfecto Clean Switch. And if you're ready to get one, go over to Mars-Tronic.
Really good.
Oh, I cut him off just before he mentioned go to Mars-Tronic.com there.
That's all right.
Can you explain what's going on, what we were listening to there?
Right, so what we've got there is a preset volume drop. So what he asked for, I'd sent him the treble maker to try out. And then I think he sent me a message while I was sat waiting for a plane and said, what if we put your treble bleed circuit on a preset volume drop so we can clean up the sound just at the flick of a switch? And I said, yes, let's give it a go. So we come up with a few versions of that. And what he had was, there it is, the Perfecto Clean Switch. And what we've got on there is we've got, at the bottom there, we've got a volume control. If I can have a look, we've got a volume control, so you can set the volume down to preset level. And then we've got the other side, we've got the same trim pots and controls as we've got on the treble maker. And then we've got at this side a capacitor, so preset capacitor. It's 1 nanofarad, which is the same setting that PJD Guitars add in their guitar, and it's a nice little setup. It's not too, there's not too much high end, there's not too much, you know, it's just a nice little setup. So people can just take that, drop it in the guitar in line with the output from the volume control and the output jack, and then they can drop the volume. So that's the circuit really. And then as we were going along, 2 seconds, I'll find it. I've got one here somewhere.
Just like, if people don't know, let's make it so Ben's not full screen. So we're looking down his ear. Perfecto, someone I only became aware of through Henning Pauly and some of the stuff that he was doing where he got other YouTubers on, because Perfecto's on like massive YouTube channel, but yeah. I think, am I right, most of it's not in English, so it hadn't come across my radar before.
Yeah, so his reviews, it is because he's from the Philippines. Some of his reviews have got some sort of mix. It's got mixed language between Filipino and English, but then there's a lot of. He lives in US, and a lot of his videos are in English, but he's the vast majority of them, I think.
Oh,
but
wow.
He was in a band in the Philippines called River Maya, and is sort of viewed as one of the best guitarists in the Philippines. So he's not as well known outside of the Philippines, except for now through YouTube. He's 330,000 subscribers on there. And his reviews are really, really good. I'd seen his videos before, and I forgot how it came about at first. I don't know if he liked one of my videos or something, so I sent him a message just to say, would you like to try the treble maker out? And it went from there, really. Yeah, but it's such a friendly chap, really friendly. And if you watch any of his videos, what I really like about him is very, very positive. So it'll not take. I don't know. Let's say if it's like cheaper end multi effects units, he'd do a review on it, but it's quite positive about it. He'll say what its limitations are, but then he takes it and uses it. It's got these really beautiful amps in the background, but then he will take something that costs like £150, a multi-effects unit, and use it with something else, you know, like Joyo or somebody else, a wireless kit, and he'll take that to guitar shows, and he'll do like live gigs with this gear, which you think, oh, it's too cheap, I can't use it. So he's sort of actually showing people, hang on, you can use really cheap gear and sound really, really brilliant, and you don't have to have the Kempers, and you don't have to have the what's the other ones? You know what I mean, don't you? The Helix and all these. You don't have to have them. You can use things that aren't as expensive and sound absolutely brilliant because today's technology is really good.
I love that you sent him one and straight away he was like, can we do this? Can we do that? It links into what you've just said, that he is thinking about how to use something in a practical way, not just to review it, not just show you what it can do, what it does, but show you the potential of things.
Yeah.
It seems like that switch was like specifically made for Hot for Teacher. Like, I love that. And it makes me wonder like how Eddie Van Halen switched so fast, you know, when he was playing those riffs. But it also reminded me of something back in the day, back in the 90s. You know, I think there's a lot of folks looking for sort of that drop in volume, like an instant drop in volume. And someone had designed an underdrive, not an overdrive, an underdrive. So it was a stomp box that you would hit, and it would give you that reduction in volume instantaneously. I thought that was kind of cool. Kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, it's very similar to that, isn't it, really? I've never heard of that before. It sounds awesome.
So I've always thought of it the other way around, like having your EQ pedal set up so it's just going to boost the volume and nothing else, so you can get that boost. But to do the cut is interesting. To have that as a pedal is a clever idea. Yeah. Have you considered putting anything of yours in a pedal format, Ben? Like the Versatone could be pedal. It could change the tone.
I've thought about the boost I made. Wherever it's gone, there it is. The Deciboost boost I made. I thought about putting that in. That's on a push switch, and it's sort of like to be similar to the. Hang on, is it focusing? This is the prototype. The idea was it was going to be similar to the EMG Afterburner. That's the one. So I thought about putting that in one, and I've got another couple ideas. Like, I think it'd be really cool. You know, on your guitar amplifier. I'm going to give this idea away, and then somebody's going to nick it, and that's fine. in the effects loop, people will have like wet dry setups, won't they, where they have an amplifier which has just got the sound coming through, and then they'll have their effects on another amp. I thought it'd be good to have like a wet dry mixer in the effects loop, so you can have your effects going out, but then you still have a mixing for the for your clean amp sound going through, overdriven sound going through. I'd like to do stuff like that. Yeah.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on pedals or amps, so I don't know if things like that exist or what it's comparable to.
They might do.
It sounds like another thing that's a unique thing that can change the tone, and people love things that change tones.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Can I just step back to the Perfecto thing? Were you about to say you did something else with him as well?
Oh yeah. So partway through the idea, we're looking at could we put it on another switch. So we've got. In fact, actually, you know that video you showed, you were playing this version of it, which were a small switch, and then we did it with a larger switch after. So I can remember when he sent me that video, and I thought, this is brilliant. But he sent me a video just before that, and he's like, "Ben, we've got a problem. The threads aren't quite long enough to go through the front of the guitar. It might work on a scratch plate." And I'm like, "Oh," and he's like, "Oh, no, unfortunately, I've already drilled my guitar." So I was like, what? So we did it, and it works. But then the other version we were looking at is it's a more deconstructed version. So it comes with all the capacitors you'd get with the treble maker. And you've got the volume preset, and you've got a slot on there to put on a capacitor and in and out, and a connection for the ground. And basically with this one, you can put it with any switch you like. So if you put it on you can put on a push-pull switch, a push-push, or a different kind of switch altogether. And then it also comes with mounting feet. So you can take this, put it on the back plate, the control cavity cover, or on your trem cavity cover. And I provide it with like here we go, just one here. I had a little drill template as well. Is that going to focus? There's a little drill template which is the same size as this. It comes with little feet, and then you can adjust with a little screwdriver through the back. So if you want quick access to change the volume, you can then tweak it, and then you can change it whenever you like, really. So it's a bit more involved setup though.
I saw the back of some of Steve Vai's guitars have got lots of Perspex covers on. Actually, we'll talk about that in a minute, because that relates to the guitar I made with you. Lots of Perspex covers on that you can pull off to make those changes quickly. Yeah. And then with magnets, they flip back on, because he's got lots of internal things on some of his guitars. But yeah, like I say, if someone likes fiddling with sounds, the more they can do, the better, and to make it easier. But I guess if you had all of these things as actual full-size pots on your guitar, you'd just be covered in. It'd be like one of those memes where you've got the Gibson with 100 different knobs on it and 20 pickups.
Yeah, I think you want to make it a little bit difficult to get to your adjustments, don't you? Otherwise, like you say, you end up with something absolutely covered. Which is a bit like that guitar you did for me, Daniel. Where it's just got all my circuits on there and it's just covered in stuff.
Yeah, when I first started using Ben's stuff, he sent me one of his Arias, the one in the background, for us to try to make a display model that you can take to shows with him, where you can put components through the front and then pull the bits off and see how they work and clip in.
So there's the treble makers on a push pull. The Humblebee's there, which is the one I need to take that off because I don't like it. And there's the Versatile there actually as well.
It's good to have that level of making something and then not liking it, so you're not going to use it.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that you did this to it, Daniel, and everything. It's brilliant. And the logo on the top. So I had a logo before with just the text logo, and then Mark from Ferrotone Studio said you need to have a much better logo than just text. So his logo, he said he spent quite a bit of money on that. So I said, I'm going to go on Fiverr and see what I can get. So it cost me about a tenner, and somebody came up with this nice logo. And I told him, and he was like, what?
If you're not aware of the website Fiverr, it's a place where people basically sell off their skills. So it's a way of putting up the project you've got. Like you want to have a logo designed, and there'll be loads of designers on there. You can pay at different amounts, and they'll do it like freelance for you. But you can also do it for music. If you want a sting for one of your YouTube videos or for your channel, you can put out there, and this is what I want. I want it to sound a bit like this, to be this long, and to have these instruments on it, and someone will do it for you. It's a great place for people to sort of sell their wares in between other jobs or find new customers.
You can get things like 3D printed 3D print files and stuff on there as well, can't you? I've considered doing that because the tool that I've got, that tool. I started doing 2 seconds. There it is. I was looking at getting a 3D printer to replace it. So I've got this one here, hang on, which is just 3D printed. Yeah. You can go on there on Fiverr, and there's people who can come up with these files and things to do it. But I didn't do it on Fiverr. Somebody at work, I took this one and I said, I want to do this, and it spent about 10 minutes and threw this design together for me. But yeah.
There's a little bit of discussion in the chat about the wet dry mixes that you might have on amps. Eddie said that Steve Morse used to mix wet and dry amps by using volume pedals on each bank or loop, I guess, to fade them in and out.
Yeah.
Bill says op amps in a summoning configuration, which notch filters work awesome for mixed dry wet signals.
See, there's other people who know way more than me about circuits. I do the simplest circuit in the world on a circuit board. When I did the clean boost circuit, some artwork first time because I don't really know what I'm doing. I do know what I'm doing, but I'm not. There's some people who are way cleverer than me when it comes to designing circuits. That's for sure.
Just out of interest, that clean boost,
Yeah.
that's not what you're selling at the moment, is it?
No, I've got a bunch of them. I have to solder these up myself. The Versatone as well. I do a lot of soldering myself. I get the circuit boards and I solder them to the push switches. But the thing that's holding me back with it is the instruction manual. To be honest, that's the longest part. I do these. I do the circuits always back that bit together, and then it's the instruction manuals that take quite a bit longer to do to make it understandable for people.
Yeah.
Are you? I think you were the one that told me about using ChatGPT for everything.
Oh yeah, I use it for everything. No, not everything.
No.
I'll sometimes throw in a description and say, "Look, this is what I've got. Can you do me a quick description?" And it's usable, but it's not you at the end of the day. I've used it for doing like scripts for talks and all sorts of things. Actually, it's really good, ChatGPT, and programming as well. On my website, I wanted to have it so it'd take some stock off when somebody bought something in another spot. And I don't know how to program plugins or anything, but ChatGPT can sort of help out. You have to help it along. It makes mistakes as well. So you also know you put the code in and it says, throw up an error and say there's an error on this line, and then you put it back into ChatGPT and say, what's this error? And it's like, oh yes, I see my mistake. I'll do it again. It's good, but there's obviously limitations.
Yeah, I think so.
You just alluded to something that Dave asked earlier, and we went off track, which was where you're selling. The idea that you've got a certain amount of stuff that you're selling in different places, because we end up talking about shows. So I'm always intrigued for a small business like yours. How do you sell your products? How do you reach your market?
So Instagram, people find me through there. And the website, I do everything myself more or less. I use WooCommerce because it's a free plugin for a website. I do everything I can to keep costs down, and then I do Google Ads, which costs me 75 pence a day. So when somebody types in treble bleed or capacitor, I'm generally at the top of the search results, and then it's a case of getting a nice looking picture, so people are attracted to it and click on it and find out where it is. And then that plus YouTube videos. So, and actually just pushing it out there to people. So for instance, like with you, Daniel, I sent you some, you've done quite a lot of videos with the Troublemaker in there. Mark from Ferrotone Studios has done it too. And now Perfecto is pushing it out there as well. So I sort of rely on other people to advertise the products. So I really would like to get into doing things like YouTube myself a little bit more, I think.
I put a link to your YouTube channel in the description, so people can see what you've got and be ready for the incoming new stuff. It's interesting because I think there's no right way for that works for everyone. So the fact you've got people like Perfecto that are putting things out there, and the Guitar Player magazine or Guitar World magazine is great. I found early on that when I got my guitars featured in an online magazines, online versions of Guitar World, suddenly I got more interest and more sales. But then recently I've had a few articles and that's not made any difference at all. I've found going to shows wasn't very helpful for me, but other people that I've met at shows feel like they have to be at shows to get their name out, because it's not just the people that are buying that goes to shows, it is the Guitar World writers and the reviewers from YouTube and the potential shops that might stock.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. From the London Guitar Show last year, I got put in contact with by Mark again from Ferrotone Studios, in contact with Vintage Guitars and their pro shop. So they take guitars and they'll do lots of mods on them, and you've got loads of options on the website. So now Troublemaker is an option on their website, but that wouldn't have happened if I didn't go to a guitar show. And then we'll see how that progresses from there. But I think people who then buy your product. They're going to refer it to other people, and that comes down to, again, the reason I do the videos as well is because you've got that personal connection with people, and people will refer you to other people and say, look, this is, even if it's not right away, they'll still remember you in future more than they would have done if you'd not done a video, if you just kept it quite sterile, like on an Amazon web store, you know. So I think there's value in that, but I think majority of the sales are through my website, really.
So the implication then, if it's through your website, is people are finding it via Google Ads or through the recommendation of people on
and on Instagram too. Originally, I tried eBay and I tried Reverb. They're both quite good, but there's a lot of fees, and with it being quite a low value product, you're not going to make as much profit there. I know I'm not doing it for a high amount of profit because it's a low value product, but you still want to get your money's worth, don't you? Whereas if you put on an ad on eBay to actually sell your product, I don't know. I think Google's such a good search engine that people will find you, really, especially if you do everything you can to get your website to ranked and things as well.
Ed has just suggested that for you, maybe people like guitar tutors are good because they might do lots of repairs or have lots of people they're interacting with who are players.
That's the right idea. Yeah,
so I'm also interested in this because I'm at the point where I might be selling some smaller products, and in the past I've had that issue that you've just talked about, where you needed to have your plugin for your website, because when you put stock up on all these different sites, the amount of time it takes to manage all of the sites. So when a sale comes up, you've got to go back to all the sites and change them all. And the fact that all sites take such different amounts of profits or fees on it all makes it quite hard to follow along, because you don't want your product to be randomly different prices on all different sites. But sometimes you have to, because otherwise it's not going to be viable.
Yeah, that's it. I think you're absolutely right there. Especially smaller, lower value products as well. That's one of the reasons I priced the Troublemaker low as well, is because there's other companies with, like I said, other variable treble bleeds and things like that. So you want to be at a similar price to them and just make it accessible to people, really. I don't want it to be like £40 like the Fender Tone Saver and price people out of it, really. I think it's much better to get people treble bleeds in their hands to try them out, or any of the circuits I've got, really.
Yeah, well, you'd hope if someone likes one of your products, they'd be intrigued to try another one. Ironically, we always talk about how on earth does Fender make their guitars or cheap, or one of those big companies that can mass produce and have, like, because of the scale of what they're buying, keep all the costs down. But yet on their cheap things like the treble bleed, they're boosting the prices up.
I know. It's like the Gibson, the Bumblebee caps that they do.
I don't know what that is.
So there's the really old Gibson Bumblebee capacitors. They're meant to sound absolutely amazing. But when you open one up inside, it's just a normal capacitor they put in a casing, and they're selling it for £50. Yeah.
Really?
If you get one and open it up, it's not an actual Bumblebee capacitor.
That's crazy.
You can blow up the internet with this, Ben. This can be your new YouTube.
Yeah.
It's funny because I have a lot of vintage components, because I was repairing tube amps for a while and have these beautiful giant capacitors, just gorgeous to look at, but they're no good anymore, right? They leaked. And I thought, well, surely there's a way to repurpose them. And I thought the same thing, cut them open and then put a capacitor inside that works, and you just get the aesthetic of the vintage one, right? And it never occurred to me that someone would actually do that. That sounds so disingenuous.
Yeah, I hope I don't get sued now. What if I'm wrong? But yeah, I think I'm right. Gibson, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is disingenuous, I think. No. I was of the opinion, actually, with the capacitors, that all capacitors are the exact same, and the oil filled and your Mylar polyester, it won't make a difference. But then I saw very recently a comment by an electrical engineer online, and he was saying actually, if you look at the response of capacitors at different frequencies, it changes from material to material. So you might actually hear a difference between a Mylar polyester capacitor and one of the orange drop ones and an oil-filled one. It still has the same capacitance, but it reacts differently at different frequencies.
And when you say react, are we talking about like the capacitor's memory? Like, what are we talking about there when we talk about reaction?
So it's charge and discharge rate, I think.
So the speed, perhaps, is it? The speed at which it does it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
okay.
But it's only a little amount. But then they were adamant that you can hear the difference. But I don't know.
Only we could have a switch that we could change the tone wood that our guitars are made from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wood and see the difference. Then could you not get 5 identical capacitors that are different types, an oil filled, Mylar, and put them on one of your varitones?
I've actually on the Versatone there's a slot for your own capacitor. So position 1 is nothing, but then if you want to put your own in there, you can. So say if you want to compare 2 values of different materials, you can do. Then that's one of the reasons I did it. Actually, I've still not done it yet. Yeah. But then again, there's a tolerance on the components, isn't there?
Yes.
So 2 capacitors, you'd have to make sure they were the exact same capacitance before you did the test. You can't just pick. I could pick 2 of the same value, and there might be a 10% tolerance, 5% tolerance, which is actually quite a lot.
Mm. I mean, we've had Joe from Hello Sailor Effects on talking about the psychological impact of having a sort of mojo or vintage component in your pedal, so in your guitar, and how knowing that's there maybe gives you a boost, makes you feel different because you know that's you're playing that. I guess it's like saying I'm not playing an Epiphone, I'm playing a Gibson, or maybe first playing Epiphone. But it's that psychological thing.
I think there is a psychological thing there.
Impact if you think you can hear it or not.
I think there is.
Yeah. I think it's a lot.
The psychological component. Sorry, go on, Dave.
I just think there's a lot of hype around it, personally. I mean, the sad thing is, I've been making sort of very simple guitar pedals, probably when you were about 5, all of you guys. But one of the, I had an inbuilt tone box, fuzz box, which I built a kit that came probably when I was about 15 or so, and it sounded absolutely brilliant. I mean, it was amazing, and I just wonder now, when you're talking about all these old vintage components, I mean, I don't know. Was I using vintage components then? I probably was, but I can't see there's that much of a difference between components that were built all those years ago when they didn't have the manufacturing capabilities that they do now, and the new stuff that you buy. I really can't see that noticeable difference. Maybe because my hearing's gone, but I don't know.
There's too many variables, isn't there?
Yeah, I the slight change of tack. It's sort of related to Guitar Tone, but I was watching Rick Beato interviewing Dave Gilmour. I don't know whether you've seen that recently. Absolutely fantastic interview where he was talking about his pedal. He's using, I think it's a Zoom pedal of about 30 years ago, and that's all. That's his main pedal. He doesn't use any. He's 3 of them, just in case one breaks down. And he's all those wonderful tones he gets, and he's got one of these.
Hey, Dave, 30 years, that's vintage now.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to keep my mouth shut then. No.
I'll have to watch that. I'm not a massive Gilmour fan necessarily, but actually to hear him talk about guitar playing and all those choices he makes will no doubt be fascinating.
He's a really good interview. It really is. Yeah.
I recommend before he did an interview with Rick Wakeman. I highly recommend that one as well.
That's fantastic. I've just finished watching that. That's absolutely awesome. Amazing. But yeah.
You know, in some really early builds of mine, I ran across the concept of treble bleed, and I put them in some of these guitars, but they had really cheap pickups. They weren't really great builds. I didn't know what they sounded like without it, so I really didn't know how to gauge whether or not it made much of a difference. But and I hadn't thought about it in a while, but now I'm kind of intrigued. I kind of want to do some experimenting.
I'll have to send you one. You can experiment.
I like the idea of experimenting when I'm building, but there's so many variables to experiment with. And as we often say, some people prefer, the wood's the thing for them. And for me, it's the visuals. I'm more interested in experimenting paint jobs and sculpts on it and stuff. And it's such a rabbit hole to dive in. But to make things that are an accessible way to experiment with a thing, an accessible way to experiment with a treble bleed or changing capacitors, I think is a really interesting idea, a really good idea. And I think it should be something that guitarists think about doing before they go and spend 300 quid on a pedal.
I think going back to what you said, Daniel, about spending more money on the name and or the really nice components and how it makes you feel. I think giving people the option to try out the components and set up their own sound, I think really you're making that person their own brand in a way. So even if they sort of feel like, it sounds better or not, if to them it sounds better because it's their own choice and their own components and their own choices. If everybody got in the mindset of I like this because I like it instead of I like this because this is Joe Satriani's favorite pedal or his set of pickups, or I think it'd be better if everybody was comfortable to like what they like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, there's so many variables and we've talked about this a million times, but in the tone of one particular guitar, the placement of the pickups, the variations in those pickups, there's so many different things that play into tone. If there was a way to do it, I would imagine it would be beneficial to be able to just tweak the tiniest little bit here and there on components, just to dial it in. I don't think I'd ever seen trim pots before. I mean, that's genius. I don't know why I never thought of that. But some things like that, my brain's trying to figure out how to make that more accessible. For one of the finishing steps in putting a guitar together, fine tuning all that stuff to. But then again, I mean, it also depends on all the gear that's external to the guitar as well. So,
yeah.
I mean, when I contacted you about that, Ben, because I was wondering how to use the treble bleed, and we were talking about it, and you were pointing out that you might need a different setup if you're playing in your house to if you're playing on stage.
Yeah. Cable length is probably one of the biggest factors. The capacitance of the cable. So you play at home, and the capacitor on the treble bleed, that is to offset, sort of counterbalance the capacitance of the cable. So you go and play on stage with a longer cable or a wireless system which has a different capacitance built in. The sound might change a little bit, and in general, you might not notice it. But once you've started messing with treble bleeds, you're going to start to hear it, pick up on it, and then it'll really annoy you. So I think it's good to have that tweak there. I've thought about actually doing 2 treble bleeds on the board and then have a little switch between, so you can have like one setting for home, one setting for live. but I don't know. It might be overbad.
I
Yeah.
like the evolving nature of your components until at some point there's so many little trim pots and
I know that's the thing, isn't it? You got to keep it simple for people, and I think you can't give people too many options either. I think maybe that's the problem with Troublemaker. You give people too many options. But I saw that in the comments. Somebody said that how do you fix it on if you're scared of soldering or scared of opening up your guitar? And that in the Troublemaker pack, I put in some crocodile clips. So you can literally crocodile clip it straight onto your volume pot. And then if you don't like it, you don't have to keep it there. I mean, I don't recommend just leaving it on crocodile clips, but I do know one guitarist who's done like 40 odd gigs with it on crocodile clips. That's crazy, but yeah, so you can do it.
I don't know enough about electronics to know if there is an option of a kind of crocodile clip that's so small and strong that you could just clip it onto the lugs and remove it like that without. Basically, what I'm saying is I don't know if there is an already out there a non-solderless version of something.
There might be like a little needle clamp thing or something, and if not, somebody should invent one that like screws in.
Yeah. I'll call Ray, see if he can 3D print something that we can put a bit of metal in. And
that's what we want. 3D printing. Yeah, I like the idea of 3D printing. I think nowadays everything is at people's fingertips, isn't it? You know, so I'm doing these circuit boards, and 10 years ago I wouldn't have been able to do it, but I can literally design it, click order now, and then they all arrive to me, and I package them up. We've got 3D printing. What else have we got? We've got CNC machines, laser cutters. People can make anything now. It's just like so good.
Coding and
yeah. Oh yeah. And we've got ChatGPT for coding.
what it should be doing is leaving time for people to play guitar. But actually it's just taking up more of my time. More time on the 3D printer, more time looking up CNC machines for when I can afford one.
Yeah. But on a different subject altogether, because you were asking me before how I promote products, how do you all sort of promote your products and like do marketing? How do you do that? Is it just Instagram, social media? How do you normally do it?
Well, I guess we're all quite different. So Dave and Scott really make things for themselves. Mark's got a YouTube channel where it's all about encouraging, correct if I'm wrong, everyone here, it's all about encouraging people to experiment and try things. So, and I'm trying to sell things, but yeah, it's all different.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, actually, you just reminded me of something there, and that was Mark's video on fret rockers. I thought if you've ever wondered about fret rockers, that is the video to watch. Sorry,
I'll have to give it a go.
Yeah, links to everyone's channels below. But yeah, that was really good.
Stuck in this fret rocker, I don't know, cycle of destruction where it just goes completely wrong, and Mark explains why this is.
Yeah, it gets worse than that. Like Stu Mac has one of the best videos on fret leveling, and I recommend it because they have the animation. Like they show you an animated board, and I wish I could reproduce it, but they already done it. But there's this idea of like the fulcrum fret, which is one high fret, and when you put your leveling beam on, your leveling beam skews, and now you're leveling an angle until your entire fretboard. So you have to get rid of those fulcrum frets before you level everything out. And so they did a brilliant job, and it just made me think about like how to get rid of those fulcrum frets. Like how do we get rid of those high frets, and how do we actually identify them? But I want to talk one more thing about treble bleeds, because one of the things I like about treble bleeds is the guitar was built, what, 70 years ago? And it feels like this is a bug that should have been identified and corrected for, right? We already have a tone knob. It's right there. Why is the volume also impacting our tone? It shouldn't. It's a bug, right? And yet we've dealt with it and we've lived with it for like 70 years. So it's about time that we self-correct, right? Yeah. So that's one of the things I like about that, because that's what I think about guitars. Like, why are the things that we're dealing with, why haven't they been fixed yet? Final thought.
Interesting. I'm in two minds about everything I'm saying today, because I love the idea of having all these options, but I also there's no reason why someone buying a guitar needs to have all those options. If they want to buy a guitar because this is the guitar Steve Vai plays and these are the pedals he uses, it's fair enough. But for me building, I want to know that what I'm doing, I've tried out until I've got what I think is the best option. So using things like the treble bleed, the versatone, all great for that. And then I like what Mark's saying, why don't we iron these problems out? But also some of those problems are what makes it have its own personality and taste. So I also don't have a problem with things that have problems in it. I want to see everything, and I want to see a guitar that does all of these bells and whistles really well. Unless I've misunderstood you, Scott, I think you mentioned the other day that after getting your Strandberg guitar, you're like, why should I bother building? Because that's just like the perfect guitar.
Not exactly, but it was a little discouraging that I get this thing and I like it better than anything I've built. It makes me. I've always built just for the fun of building, and if one can sell to finance the next project, then yeehaw. But if anything, it's made me want to try to find a way to improve the quality of what I build, because I've always struggled with that anyway. Especially with your early builds, there's so many things that go into a guitar build that that affect quality. I've always struggled with, I would have to charge like $2,000 to make it worth my while to sell a build. But I don't know what a $2,000 guitar feels like or sounds like, or what makes a guitar worth that, So I've always struggled with, is what I'm building at the level of quality that I would have to sell it for.
I think that it sort of comes down to, actually, there'll always be somebody who can do what you do better.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not how, I don't think, that's not how you make yourself irreplaceable, if you get me. People come to you because they like you. They might like what you do, but that's why I think personal connection is so important. And I think actually being open with people and like generous with your time and with your attention, that's what makes you irreplaceable. I've been in as a job, I'm an electrician engineer in the factory, and there's always people who keep all their information to themselves because they think that's what gives them their job security, knowing more than everybody else. But actually, being helpful to people and your attitude and just being you, that's what makes you irreplaceable.
Yeah.
And again, we your guitars, all your guitars, that's what makes it irreplaceable. The whole idea behind the Guitar Builders Collective as well, I think, is so good, because it's like a community, everybody helping each other out, and I think ultimately that's going to win over people keeping the secrets to themselves to try and keep themselves relevant. I think something, just being generous and sharing with people, I think is way more important.
Mm.
I just want to know what it is that makes this thing magic. I want to know how to recreate that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's like that again. That's part of what makes your guitars as well, isn't it? It's like your brand is your attention to detail and your determination to make it awesome.
Yeah.
It's interesting that, because I was sort of fascinated by this concept of what is it why is that guitar so much more expensive than something else? And funnily enough, I went down to GAC in Brighton, just down the road from Daniel over, and sat there and said, can I try a Fender, I think it was a Squire Strat copy, and then one of their top end Fenders, and it was interesting. I have to be honest with you, I didn't feel personally there was an awful lot of difference, but there was definitely a difference. But until you actually do that, I don't think you get the subtleties of it. You know, the most expensive one, it did somehow feel better to play. I really couldn't have told you quite why, but you know,
Interesting. I don't know how you take it apart, Scott, to know or copy it exactly. But for someone that hasn't played a Strandberg and hasn't played one of your guitars, I've only seen them. There's definitely something about your finishing that makes yours different from theirs that I like anyway. And I'm sure there's someone out there that pick up a Strandberg and say, what is it about this guitar that makes it so crap? Because different things in life on different things. So, but it's interesting to have that feel. And Dave, next time you do that, give me a call. I'll come to meet you.
There are some features about it that just work for me. It's light. You know, I never worried about guitar weight before, and you know, I get some heavy damn guitars. But the fact that it's light really is nice. But the carve of the neck is just amazing. But what gets me every time I pick it up, it's always in tune. It's just rock solid, and I don't know.
Yeah, Scott, I was about to mention, we were talking about what makes it so good. Weight is just a huge issue on all the guitars that are great. If it's a lightweight guitar, it's just, there's something about it, right? It's really kind of hard to articulate the why. And then about tuning stability, I mean, Paul Reed Smith said, if something goes out of tune, it's because something moved. Something moved. And when you have a guitar that's constructed in a way where nothing moves, where you have fewer components, right? Then just, it's going to be in tune. Simple as that.
Yeah. Well, okay. I've come to appreciate multi-scale as well, and there's so few options for bridges when it comes to. I mean, all the options that are out there are nothing like the other options. There's no standard whatsoever. It's that part's difficult enough, but then you add trim to it, and it's even worse. And they just, you know, they made their own. It looks a little goofy, you know, when you have a wider plate to accommodate for those saddles on a multi-scale trim bridge. But I don't know. I like multi-scale, and you know, I like at least to have the option of a tremolo. So that complicates things as well. But that's one of the things that they just kind of figured out, and it seems to work really well. So. I love that damn Strandberg.
Yeah, the other thing about Strandberg is that they make all their components. Like, they're not like buying this trim from over there and this thing. Exactly. They designed it. So Ola like designed his own bridge for that guitar.
Yeah.
So it's the same ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how are they coping with the neck? I mean, you're obviously not getting neck dive with a Strandberg. So what are they doing? Are they using sort of carbon fiber or something like that in it?
Well, it's headless for one thing.
Right.
But
are they thinner?
Sometimes neck dive has to do with where your strap button is located, right? So if you think about an SG, that strap button's way over here and you get the neck dive. So you can actually fix neck dive depending on where you put that strap button.
Yeah.
I did a video some time ago talking about you know, the considerations on shape when you want to try to make your own shape, and there are a few features that are kind of important, and one of them is, you know, that top horn. The further it is out there, the more, you know, leverage you have strap wise. So yeah, the tighter that gets, the more neck dive you're gonna have.
Yeah. I mean, because I like this sort of the hollow body type design guitars these days, because they are so much lighter. But I mean, the long neck bass that I've made, unfortunately, does suffer with a bit of neck dive. I mean, it's a lovely light guitar, it really is. But I mean, if I just stood there, it would hit the floor. So, you know, I just wonder how you get around that. I mean, is there a concept of a hollow neck or something like that, which we've not come across? I don't know.
It's usually, you know, those tuners on that damn head. The last few builds I've done, it's an open gear. Damn it, I've forgotten. what brand, but I found these that they're just super light tuners. I love them. But talking about neck dive, back in college days when I was in a little blues band, I had an Ibanez. I still have with a drop D tuner, and I pulled it out, I don't know, a couple of years ago to, play with, and it's just super neck divey. And I don't remember dealing with that back when I was, gigging with this damn guitar. But it's bad. It's a lot of neck dive.
I saw Chris DePinto on his Instagram channel say he makes guitars and repairs guitars and does repairs on other instruments as well, weighing different tuners. And he had this theory that the weight of the tuner is what's causing a lot of modern Gibsons necks to break or headstocks to break, because the custom tuners they used to come with, and he weighed them, weigh nothing compared to the Grover tuners that a lot of them have now, especially the locking tuners that weigh significantly more. So he thinks that there's something about the weight when it's in a guitar case with the lid down that's causing it to have more tension or something happen there. But I don't know. But if he's talking about the weight of them, if the weight is so significantly different, that could be a head neck dive issue.
Yeah.
I remember someone contacted me talking about the problem they were having with neck dive on their guitar, and in the end they just started hanging on the end sort of strap pin weights. So then they just strapped it to their strap. So their strap at one end had lots of weights on it, and it just slowly moved the neck till it was balanced. And these weights in a bag on the end of their strap.
It defeats the object of a light guitar, of course, doesn't it?
That's brilliant.
Things to talk about with design. And is it a problem? Like, as I always say, I like the visual of a guitar a lot, and I used to love playing my Ibanez Iceman live, my bass, and that had ridiculous neck dive. I didn't care; it looked cool.
Yeah, I
never had anyone come up to me afterwards and say, "How did you cope with that neck dive guitar? You are a star." I say that guitar looks cool. So
you see that. It's some of the comments that I always get when I'm doing with these guitars, yeah, but what about the neck dive? So it's sort of, I always think, is it really that important? But, it probably isn't that important at all, is it?
I don't know. When you get one that really neck dives, it's horrific to deal with.
My that guitar that I made in school, that neck dived really, really badly originally, because I've put the strap pin on the back of the guitar body. But then as soon as I moved it up to the top, well, you can see the hole in the back there. That's the original strap pin placement. And then I moved it to here on the end. And it solved it completely. I need to get this finished off.
So look, thank you everyone. It's been a great chat today. I've been slightly overwhelmed with work and things, and it's just great to have a break to talk about guitars and to chat to people. If anyone is in the chat watching in the future or listening in the future and wants to leave a comment about treble bleeds and what they think of them, how they use them, that'd be really good. Be good to see. I often don't know if what I'm making as decisions in the guitars is right for clients, so it's good to get a bit of feedback from if people like them. I was just catching up on the live chat. I don't think we've missed any questions. No, I think we're all there. So thank you again, everyone. And just want to do a quick shout out to the members of the channel. We've got a couple of new members as well. So Every Guitar Has a Story, Big Unit Guitars, Daniel Marquez, Dinsey, Gabriella Retti, Entropia Guitars, Electric Lady Guitars, Adair Guitars, BB Guitars, Simon Chapman, Mr. Glyn's Pickups, Dave Dickens, and Tasmaniak Guitars. Really appreciate it. I've been trying to do regular things for the members, but because of the Kickstarter I've been doing, I've been a bit distracted recently. So yesterday I went on and did my first live stream for members in a while, and it all went like technology all failed on me. So I tried. I spent about half an hour last night trying to fix the problems with the stream that had gone on, and whether I could re-upload it. And I thought I'm just going to do it again. So I'll go live again tomorrow. So if anyone's watching this live or listening on Thursday, then tomorrow, Friday at 1 p.m, I'll be doing a quick live where I'm going to be showing off my new organised area where I keep all my guitar components, including the treble makers. Fantastic.
Excellent.
So links to everyone's YouTube channels, Instagrams and websites in the description as always. Thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you for having me. It's been brilliant.
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, I might have to order some stuff and play.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, everyone. See you next.
See you guys.
See you later.
The Guitar Builders Collective is a group of like-minded people from all around the world at different stages of their guitar building journey. You can join us over on our forum to seek advice or share tips on guitar building processes, materials and tools, or just to share your builds. On YouTube, we have a regular podcast of guitar building chat where you can join the live stream or watch back on past episodes. Our Instagram page shares posts of members' builds and links you direct to their accounts. And for those of you on Facebook, we've got a private group that you can join, share and chat along with. The Guitar Builders Collective is a welcome and open space for all, so do pop by and say hi.